Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission. Today's date is February 14th, 2024, and the time is 5:00 p.m. I'm Kathy Pagani. I am the chair of the commission, and I would like to invite my fellow commission members to introduce themselves to you. Beginning on my right, please.
Mary Harmon Young.
William Edwards. David Nelson.
Matt McCool.
Thank you. And from city staff this evening, we have Mr. Chad Hobbs, the Associate City Attorney, Mr. Hudson Cheshire, the Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Emily Hayes, Associate Director of Planning, Mr. Jonathan Bowen, the Neighborhood Resources Coordinator, Ms. Lily McIntyre, the Special Projects Coordinator, and providing audiovisual support for us this evening is Mr. Kevin Jones. I'd also like to invite some special guests this evening. We have joining us this evening students from the university's journalism class, so we'd like to welcome you and thank you for your interest in attending. Before we get into reviewing our applications this evening, I'd like to go over the statement of purpose of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission and cover the procedures for this evening. The general purpose of the Historic Preservation Commission is that we serve to preserve and protect the buildings, sites, and structures of historic significance and in Tuscaloosa's historic neighborhoods. We are governed by Chapter 20, Article 2 of the Code of Tuscaloosa, which includes design guidelines that are posted on the city's website. Our decisions are based on these design guidelines and do not consider use or occupancy. We do consider such factors as architectural style, appropriateness of materials, and how the structure relates to other structures in the immediate neighborhood in determining the appropriateness of the application. An approval requires 5 affirmative votes. If the certificate is approved, please be aware that there will be a final inspection by city staff of approved applications to ensure compliance with what was approved by the commission this evening. This is a public hearing. It is televised live on local cable, streamed online through Facebook, streamed on YouTube, and is being recorded to be posted on the city's website. We ask proper decorum, civility, and respect for others at all times. Prior to this meeting, notice was sent to adjacent property owners, and the public has been notified of the applications presented tonight. This hearing is a chance for the applicant to present their case, for the public to make their views known about the project, and for commission members to gather relevant facts about the application before making its decision. City staff will begin by introducing the application. The applicant will then have a chance to make any comments. The commissioners will then have an opportunity to ask the applicant questions about the case, and then I will open the hearing to public comment. At the close of public comment, the commission will then discuss the matter and vote on the application. Any person wishing to speak on behalf of another person, group, or entity shall provide written authorization to the chairperson from that person, group, or entity being represented. Immediate family members, and we define that as a spouse, a parent, or a child, do not have to provide such written authorization when speaking on behalf of another immediate family member. And we ask that you please leave signs in the yard, as staff will be around in the next couple of days to pick them up. So moving along. As the Historic Preservation Commission has received a synopsis of the 2 previous meetings, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the same unless there are any deletions, additions, or corrections. Do I have a motion to approve said synopsis?
Motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. And beginning on my left, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. The commission members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the members have a conflict of interest as defined by Section 6 of the commission bylaws with any of these items? All right, hearing none, we shall move on. And I would like to ask staff if proper notification has been provided for each of the agenda items.
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. And let the record show that Mr. Cox has joined the hearing. And let's begin with our first application.
All right, we'll good afternoon, Commission, and thank you for deciding to spend your Valentine's Day with us tonight. We'll go ahead and hop into our first case. It's HPC 824. Mark Nix petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the primary structure. This is at 325 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. Here we have an aerial view of the property as well as its location. We'll move on to some pictures of the subject property as well as the surrounding property. So here's a view of the primary structure, and then here we have that adjacent northern property. So moving into the proposal, tonight what the applicant is asking for is retroactive approval for a change in materials used to repair 3 sets of stairs that you will see around the property. They also request to change and replace the busted, uneven concrete sidewalks. We have a couple of pictures of that. Changing out that material with brick is what they would like to do. So moving forward, we're going to take it pretty slow, just going around the property. We'll note there are some additional exterior changes that you may see, such as the landscaping, but for tonight specifically, we're looking at just the brick portions that they have replaced and are asking retroactive approval for. So again, looking at the front facade of the building, steps that you see here, and the brick that you see right up under that front door, those have been replaced. And we have a couple of up-close pictures that show that. This concrete walk path that you see, they would like to replace it with brick, similar to what they have already used. Here we have just a side view. And then these were pictures that were submitted by the applicant. On the left-hand side, that is the side we have been looking at. And then this right picture, these are additional stairs that have been covered with brick veneer. Underneath it was concrete. You will also see some lattice that has been added over in this section here. And of course, all the landscaping has been removed around the property. Moving on, this is just an up-close image of the stairs that we have already looked at. On the front facade, you can just kind of see a closer-up image of the design of the material. Just a few more pictures showing all sides of those stairs. Moving on to the other side of the house, nothing has been changed with the existing brick steps that you see on each side. So these were existing brick steps, and they have remained untouched, and just a closer-up image of both of those. This is another angle or another set of stairs that have been replaced with brick. The brick is slightly different than what was seen on the front facade. The brick here does appear to be made, and I believe the applicant stated that the bricks you see here were salvaged from other work that they've done on the property, so they are designed a little bit differently. And then here's one of our pictures just showing a closer-up image of that new staircase. Here we have a view just step back. So the stairs we were just talking about are located here. So they replaced stairs there as well as right here. And here's an up-close image. So this is on the south side of the property. You can see the bricks used here as well as right underneath the door. And then a closer-up image of the lattice that was placed. We did have a picture, show a picture that there is existing lattice on the property, but as you can tell, it's slightly designed a little bit differently, and this one appears to be set on the outside, whereas the existing lattice appears to be set either in line with the brick or on the inside of the brick. So the materials, brick, they replace the existing or covered the existing concrete stairs with brick. And then here we have those applicable design guidelines. We did receive 3 public comment in opposition to this petition, and we do have the petitioner's representative here in person.
Any questions for Mr. Bowen?
Mr. Bowen?
Yes.
What's going on with the transom window?
So the transom window, that was something that was noted, and I'll go back to show that. The owner received a little bit of expedited approval to repair and replace items with no change in design, no change in materials. While they were working, they were painting some of the windows, just repainting them white. He has stated that that was done, and whenever we issued a stop work order, that they stopped, but that their intention is to take the paint off. I'm not sure why it was painted initially, but the applicant has stated that when they are allowed to continue work, it will be restored to its original condition.
I've got one more question.
Sure.
About the brick that appears at the thresholds of the doors, or the brick veneer, that appears to be new on 2 or 3 doors in the
That's correct.
thresholds. And what were those, do we know what those thresholds were before that was applied?
I believe it was similar stone. I don't know if we have a picture that shows previous to what we see now. If you were to go out to the property, this is what you would see now. But I believe that it was, the stairs you see here were stone, and right underneath the door, I believe, was also stone.
That is correct.
And for clarity, I think you said something about these front stairs being concrete, but I think we may think that they were actually quarried stone.
That's correct. So the picture that you see here is looking or facing the property off of Queen City Avenue. So the stairs underneath this brick was that stone. And I'll see if I can go back to this on the side of the house, not these right here. The stairs right here, the applicant has said they were concrete. So these were concrete. The front facade was a more stone material. Or
Can you
different
offer
stone.
any insight into what the comments about fiberglass stairs are?
So the applicant did state in the application that they replaced fiberglass material. And I do believe that the decking itself was a fiberglass material. Looking back at old pictures, we did not see any evidence that the stairs themselves were a fiberglass material. We believe that they were a stone. Some of the pictures that we have in our files show that they were stone. So unless they were changed at some point, it's our understanding that those stairs were stone and concrete.
These buttresses, or whatever you call them, on the side of the side entrance stairs, they're original? Should
I don't believe those
Were
were
these
original. I think
changed?
the entire section you see here
left
was-
and right, do you know what was there prior, left and right?
I don't. I think we do have a Google image from the most recent update, and we can pull that up to show what was previously there.
Okay. On the front steps, is that pad at the bottom kind of a wider pad? Was it that configuration in concrete already, or did they elaborate?
They did not elaborate. They didn't specify on that. I know we have some pictures that show at least the concrete walking path, but I don't know if it
Did it
extended.
flare out like that?
I'm not sure if it did previously.
Okay, last question about those handrails. Are those the existing? Is that the existing, or were the spindles changed in these?
I will let the applicant confirm on that. I don't know if they specified in their application, and when we went out there to take pictures, this is the most recent photos that we have, so I know the most recent Google update, I think, was from 2013 or around that time, so we may not have more recent photos than that, but I'll let the applicant comment if those are original.
And when these were erected, were they under a provision of a handicap temporarily, or were they permanent? Do you remember when the handrail was approved?
I
Is
do
there
not.
record in the HPC on that?
I'm not sure when those are approved, but we can pull that information up.
It's your understanding that the HPC approved these wooden handrails on the front?
I know that there were previous approvals. We'll look at our records to see exactly what they were approved for previously. I don't know exactly if the handrails that you see here is what was approved previously or if they perhaps have been replaced.
Do you have any knowledge about whether the current applicant put these handrails in?
I'm not sure, but I'll have the applicant
All right, well,
confirm that. Right. Yeah.
There were handrails very, very similar to that, if not these, prior to the current owner buying the house. And I think that the previous owner had put these up, but I'm not sure when, and I don't know if they had approval with HPC, but they've been there for quite a while, just to clarify that part of it. I would be curious to know if HPC approved these handrails. I've always wondered that.
Sure,
Because, they are there, and it's part of the history of the house now.
Right.
But that's it. I was noticing those spindles too. They seem a little different to me, but I'm
They
not
are
sure.
different.
But we can ask the applicant about that. Are there any other questions for city staff at this point?
The 2013 photograph would be very helpful.
Sure, we'll pull that up.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I'd like to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up to the podium, please. And we'd like you to state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nathan Gerdeau. Our address is 5615 Union Chapel Terrace, Northport, Alabama.
Well, thank you for coming this evening. We have
ma'am.
a lot to ask you about.
Yes.
And a number of unanswered questions, just you could hear the conversations going on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And why don't we just sort of take this bit by bit?
Okay.
And I think one of the things we want to start with then are those front steps right in the front of the house. We'll start there. Let's start with the front facade. So we've got these brick facers.
Mm-hmm.
The application says, if I recall correctly, that the brick was covering 1990s fiberglass boards.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that it's limestone underneath that brick. So I found that a little bit confusing on why that it would be stated that way in the application.
Mm-hmm.
And that what I've noticed, I live in the neighborhood, that brickwork had started, and then the owner was told not to do any more, and the brickwork continued. So the volutes on that last step now are covered with brick. But I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about the rationale behind doing that brick over the stone.
Yeah, as far as I know, Mr. Nix contacted me probably a couple weeks ago to help him with the process because he wasn't able to come tonight, so I'm in place for him. But as far as any of the work before that, I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not sure about what type of stone. I was just under the impression that it was fiberglass steps. Yeah.
Where did you
Wasn't.
get that impression? Was it from Mr. Nix?
Mr. Nix, yeah.
Do you have any way of verifying any of that? That there were fiberglass steps under there?
I believe he sent me some pictures of, but I'm not sure if they're from the front or not.
Who prepared the photographs with the arrows and the word fiberglass? Is that something you?
Some of those I did prepare, and then some of those were from Mr. Nix himself.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, having been at that house recently and having some pictures of the sides of the brick, just FYI, because I know you're brought in late,
Yeah.
but it's very clearly stone. I think we might have some extra photos if we can do a side view of that. And then you can really see clearly, there's no mistaking that it's this stone. And I have some comments from an architectural historian that I was kind of saving for a little bit later when we talk about public comment. But it might be useful for this to come out now as we have a conversation with you about a number of items
Sure, yeah.
here. I was thinking, Mr. Bowen, aren't there some more recent ones showing some of the brick facing? It's from the side of the steps. There we go. So there you can see there's stone, kind of obscured by a lot of lumpy mortar there. But you can see that it's limestone. But would you?
And the volute.
Yes, you can still see the volute there at the bottom of the steps. We have some other photos of that. But let me read to you what Dr. Malone has said. So he's a local expert in Southern architecture and has worked on a lot of important buildings in the area, including the University Club and Bryce Hospital and some other things. And he's known this house for a long, long time. He's done research on it. But just an excerpt of this, and this is public comment, so it is available if people would like to see this. I would like to point out that the captions to the photos attached to that form, meaning the application, something that Mr. Cox just brought up, are misleading. The original front steps were stone, not concrete, and he cites the Habs architectural drawings. And the Habs is the Historic Architecture, oh my gosh, what's the B stand for? Survey, but it's in the Library of Congress. So he was looking at those drawings. He continues, they have been partly covered with crudely mortared raw brick tiles and stone, and the stonework is now completely covered in the photos attached to the petition. The stone steps are an extremely important architectural artifact of the period. And this is what's really interesting here. The steps were carved from locally quarried sandstone by skilled Scottish stonemasons who were brought to Tuscaloosa by state architect William Nichols to create the stonework for the Alabama Capitol and the Rotunda and Lyceum at the nearby University of Alabama. These masons had just completed a similar but much larger set of front steps at the James H. Deering House, now the University Club, before they created the steps on the Ormond Little Miller House. And then he continues to say, I strongly urge the commission to require that the current owner of the house remove the offensive brick tiles and repair the original stone steps. And there are a few other things too. Well, let me mention this as well. The other problem on the facade of the house that violates the commission's standards concerns the beautiful ground floor frontispiece or entryway, which for some inexplicable reason has had its ornate glass transom entirely covered with white paint. The entryway and the steps leading to it are among the most important architectural elements of the exterior of the house. And so those are Robert Malone's comments on that, and they touch on some of the comments the commission members have made already. But I know that glass transom was painted over as early as December 3rd. That's when I first noticed it, and it's remained that way, even though some work continued on after December 3rd. The bricking of the front steps had started, but and they were told not to do any more. The steps were finished. They continued to cover over the volutes on the stone, but then when you look at the front facade of the house, the threshold area was unbricked. It was stone, and now it has the brick facers. The other thing, since I'm on a roll here, on either side of the front porch are lattice panels that have been added, similar to the ones that we see on the side of the house here. Those don't appear in the application as well. And then, of course, the landscaping that's happened here. In discussions with Robert Malone prior to all of this, he had told me that the landscape plan of this property was really integral to the overall design of the house and the property as a whole. And that landscaping is gone. Typically, when we have issues with landscaping, we have a plan on what the owner is going to do with that landscaping. And I don't know if you're prepared to talk about any of that stuff, since I know you're coming in here representing. But those are some of the concerns here that we have.
Kathy, that side photograph does show the original on the, if you'll back up to the side view. Close up of the steps that,
The older photo we have?
yes, the older
Yes.
photo, it shows that the banisters have been replaced since that photograph was made.
Right. But we,
Yeah.
okay. And do you know anything, but you don't know it?
Here, no, not that one.
The
That-
one with the
that-
shrubbery at the entranceway from
Right.
2013.
Yes.
That's the,
And
yes.
there was one that showed,
But they're not there at all.
no, they're not.
And Mr. Miller put those,
There were,
But there was one that
there was
showed.
cast iron ones there at one point, but I think those came off a long time ago.
yes, they
Yes,
did.
the cast-
They did.
Okay.
But we saw a photo just a minute ago that showed straight line, not curved spindles.
Let's go back to
Yeah.
the side views.
I thought I saw that too.
Let's go back. That shows the spindle. though.
Yeah, that shows the curved spindles, the shaped spindles.
It was, but I think maybe it was a closer view of it. Closer view and it cut it.
Suffice it to say, it seems like everything was done inappropriately from the beginning of this project, including the modifications that were made to one of the most important houses in Tuscaloosa. So, you know, I guess this is an and I don't think I'm alone in that view. So, you know, this is an opportunity, I suppose, for you to tell us why that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, like I stated, I've come in on the back end of this, yeah. You have all seen my plans before here, and my intent, of course, is to respect any historical integrity on any home. So, in alleviating this, I'm not sure if we can come to some kind of decision for Mr. Marks to remediate all the issues here and then start over. I don't know if that's an option or not.
I mean, I think certainly
but
this wouldn't be a bad forum to discuss proposals for how y'all might want to go about restoring certain things and any challenges you anticipate running into. If y'all have looked at, for instance, the process for removing some of this brick, we'd love to hear about it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and just to sort of go over procedure with this, so we consider the application here tonight, and we either approve or we deny.
Right.
Should the application be denied this evening, this doesn't mean that you necessarily then go and remove that brick because it's now existing. So then the owner or the owner's representative comes back with the proposal to remove the brick,
Okay,
for example.
okay.
All right, because there are a number of other concerns here, and I know that it's difficult for you to be able to speak on all of this because you are just coming into it kind of late in the game.
Right.
I think it seems like your position here is just, you're going to be the conduit for information to the homeowner.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
Yeah.
All right. So, I don't know, does anybody have any more questions for Mr. Jardot? Okay, so if you don't mind, unless you have other things you want to tell us about the project now, you can have a seat. And then if we have some other questions for you, we can bring you back and ask you a few questions. And then we can get public comment. We can talk amongst ourselves, lay out the various issues. The one thing I can tell you is that the application didn't represent completely all of the work that's been done. So
Okay.
we will be talking about these items. We'll just go through them one by one.
Okay.
Okay, does that sound all right?
Sure,
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you.
Yeah, I will say that I'm going to try to work with Mr. Nix after this on, try to get like full sets of plans, like I said, like you guys have seen my work before.
Right.
With everything laid out of what needs to be done, so.
Yes, we
And
have.
if y'all want to lay out your proposal and going back with landscaping, a lot of times we see, you know, really full plans, and even though we might only be approving a part of it, us having the context of what the whole plan is helpful, so.
Yeah, my intent would be to have everything that he wants to do and get it all in one set of plans and lay it all out for you guys and just approve it all at once. Yeah.
Well, you know, the one thing too, I want to just underscore is the historic significance of this property, right? It's probably one of the gems in town, probably one of the most
Most
important, if
certainly.
not the most important historic property here. And I'd like to just mention this too. Can we pull up a picture of the fountain? And I meant to print this out and I did not, but yes. All right, so this fountain, it's not the greatest picture of it, but that fountain needs to be treated with some TLC as well. I asked Dr. Malone about this one, and it's really, really interesting. It's a zinc fountain, and he says the fountain at the Ormond House was based on a famous Hellenistic statue in the Vatican Museum. The statue was copied frequently in the Renaissance, and was enormously popular in the 19th century America for garden ornaments. One could order them from catalogs in New York and Philadelphia published by ironworks like Fisk or Mott. I discovered that much of the ornamental ironwork garden ornaments at Bryce, such as the statue of Hebe, came from Fisk's catalog. So anyway, it's an important part. It dates to about the 1850s, so it's quite old.
Right.
And really has a really interesting history to it. So I wanted to make you aware of that
Okay.
in moving forward.
Yeah.
Because it's an important part of the whole of this house.
Sure, yeah, thank
Okay.
you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you.
thank you, guys.
All right. Let me open the floor to public comment. So we have had submitted comment, 3 in opposition. And then we do have people here to speak. Do we have anyone, I'll open the floor to public comment. Is there anyone here to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this? And I'll invite you to come to the podium. You will each be given 5 minutes to speak, and we will require each of you to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sonny Deason. I live at 402 17th Avenue, Tuscaloosa. It won't take 5 minutes because y'all took all my talking points.
The mic. Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
Get it closer.
There you go.
There you go. I do appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak. But since I've got notes here, I need to be able to see them, I guess. Pretty much, the photographs that I pulled up from the internet from 1934 and 2013, it was stone under there, under the steps. That was stone. They was not fiberglass. They didn't have fiberglass in 1934. In 2013, there wasn't fiberglass on there. So you all have seen that also. The brick pavers really take away from the house. The colors and everything does to me. It really detracts from the beauty of the house. The question was asked by David about was it flared out? I've walked by it in 31 years, probably several hundred times, and I never saw that design. I think it's straight up, but I couldn't swear to it. It just doesn't seem to be that way. The brick on the side walls of the side porch over there appears to be taken from the stock from what Mr. Miller had left over when he built the garage, and also the end of that porch. That whole thing was taken from that stock back there. So, and they match as good as they can be matched. It's my understanding this brick came over as ballast of a ship from England. And,
It's not true.
okay, that's what I was told.
Yes, I know. It was funny. I heard that same story this morning, and that is, I checked it with Dr. Malone, and he said that's been floating around for a long
Okay.
time. Makes a great story, but no.
One of our neighbors told us that her daughter was there at something, and it was. But anyway, that's fine. And let's see, I've talked about the transom. I agree with that. That existing piece of lattice, I think, is some sort of ventilation for the basement. It's been there probably in some shape or form ever since the house was built. But it is not like this lattice. In addition to all of the things that you guys have already talked about, I would like to request if you guys can do it, I would like to have direct the homeowner to please clean up the trash and the excess building materials that's laying around, all around the house, as you can see on the right there. It's stuff's been here for about 6 months like that, and it really is not very attractive to the neighborhood. So I wish you guys could ask them to please, they've got a dumpster there, and all they gotta do is take about 10 minutes and clean it up, but I've had to look at it for a long time. I
We'll have
appreciate
some-
you giving
all
me
right.
the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deason. So I do have a list of names of people who are requesting to speak. Ms. Ray, would you like to come up? And you'll probably have to pull that mic down. I have the same problem. And just speak your name and address, please.
I was always in the first row when the pictures were taken, so I'm used to this. Thank you very much. I'm Sandra Ray, and I live at 25 Pinehurst Drive, 35401, and I live right next door to the Chancellor's Guest House in that area. So and I've lived downtown in historic districts. This is the fourth house I've had, so I'm very comfortable with what y'all do and how you do it. And I know sometimes we're tempted to ask forgiveness rather than permission, but that doesn't help our neighborhoods. I think you all know and have identified the issues with this particular property, and it's kind of like almost the entrance to the historic district. I guess that's why it's such a concern to us. I guess and I know others can speak more eloquently, but I do have a question. Do the contractors that work on these houses, is there any way that we can, or that they can say, we have read, we know it's historic, a property, we understand that it's unique, anything that would give us more confidence that they're going to do the right thing? We don't like these type of challenges. We'd rather it go, easily and it be done like the regulations are. So if there's some way that we could make sure that the contractors that work on these properties understand that there's maybe a little more regulation than with others, because it's very important to us too. I thank you for what you do. It is a big deal, and I think we seem to have too many issues like this coming up, and we'd like not to have so. But thank you very much. I think you know what our concerns are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. And city staff has,
Do you have any questions?
no, and city staff has made note of your comments.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Ms. Martin.
Hi, my name is Angie Morton. I live at 1 Pinehurst Drive here in Tuscaloosa. I did send in some comments. They have kind of been clarified with a lot of the information that has come to light. If there's one bright spot in this, it is that this project is quickly becoming a case study in what not to do. And so if there's something that this committee can do going forward, it's to maybe use some lessons to let's try and figure out how we can maybe put some parameters in place and try and prevent things like this from happening again. Because this particular house, my understanding is they knew that there were rules and that they were going to need approval on some things. And so they came to this committee for an expedited review for minor repairs and for maintenance, and which they didn't need to do. You don't have to have approval for those things, but the committee in writing told them that if you do anything beyond minor repairs and maintenance, you need to have approval. And I think that makes what they've done so far willful ignorance. I mean, they have not really tried to understand the history of this house. It's not that hard in Tuscaloosa to figure out what you have when you buy a historic property, and to completely disregard perhaps what are original limestone steps and cover over them with their brick pavers. They're not even brick. It's kind of heartbreaking. I mean, it really is. It just, I mean, I just want to cry. So I think there have to be some consequences. I mean, I think they have to make this right. And I know that puts you all in a very precarious situation, but the further down the line this goes, at some point, someone else is going to come along to rebuild these steps, presumably thinking that this material has been okayed. Clearly it's not. And it sounds like part of their petition is to continue to use these same brick pavers in sidewalks and walkways all along the property. Obviously, I don't think that will be allowed, but there's got to be some way that they can be held accountable and have to make right the mistakes that they've made so far. There's some craftsmanship with the lattice work that, I mean, it just looks bad. It just looks like there was not enough care and attention into choosing materials and craftsmanship that would reflect what a property like this really deserves. So I know you guys are in a very tough spot, but I think in the long run, maybe we can learn some things from this particular project.
Thank you very much. And I have Ms. Farrar as well.
She's on her way here, but I'm her husband, so.
All right. Well, thank you. If you could state your name and your address, please, sir.
Yeah. It's Joseph Frank Farrar, 1706 3rd Street.
Thank you. And what would you like to convey to us on behalf
Well,
of your wife?
I noted that she was particularly concerned about the landscaping and how that's been completely destroyed. But I also realized that the evening is about the brick particularly and not some of the other parts of the property. I would like to support the previous statement about the fact that it is disappointing when things like this happen, and it seems like we have to go back and fix something that should have never been done in the first place. And if indeed there is some way to, address situations like this in the future, what was done at this property was not done overnight. It certainly seems like somehow there should be a way to, if something like this occurs in the future, which of course it will, that it could be halted in a much more speedy fashion. And I look forward to repairs being done to the extent that they can be done. I walk by this property every day, and it really is sickening to the stomach.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here? Ms. Stone? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm Tricia Stone, 20 Pinehurst Drive. I just want to say that we've been trying through Original City Association, OCA, to work in advance to stop getting to this point. And if anybody's got any suggestion, Emily and Jonathan have been wonderful to work with. Y'all are great to work with. We are trying to find ways, either through the different neighborhoods or through OCA, that we can get, because really, it really comes down to a lot of out-of-town property owners, and whether it's just, ignorance or obstinance, I don't know, pick, but a lot of times it just gets to the point where it's too late, or someone receives a packet that we always try to make very friendly and say, welcome, we're glad you're here, we want to tell you these things up front, and they take them, and then I guess they push them aside and go ahead. I don't know. But if anybody's got any suggestions on how that we can not get to this point and not be fighting over fences and bricks and all the other things that we seem to come here on Tuesdays, and now we all know each other because we all are in these conversations all the time, let's figure it out. And I know we're willing, both through Pinehurst and OCA, so that's all I have to say, except that Emily and Jonathan do a great job helping us try to do all this. Thanks.
Thank you, and I would agree. Emily and Jonathan do a great job in working with the commission and with the community. Is there anyone else here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? All right, let me close the floor to public comment then, and let's begin a discussion with the commission members. I would like to say a couple of things as we begin our discussion here. You know, this is a highly significant property. As it was mentioned by a member of the public, it really is kind of an entrance to the historic districts. It's a real gem on Queen City Avenue. I'd like to just reiterate the purpose of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission, just to remind everyone that our purpose is to protect and preserve structures of historic significance in Tuscaloosa's historic districts. All right? So, and I don't think we see any property that has any higher significance than this one does. It's information about it, photographs about it are in the Library of Congress, and it's a gem in the city. So we have a number of issues here, although the application is stating about the brick steps in front and that walkway, the steps on the side. There are a number of other issues that we've talked about tonight. And let me just read what I have down with the commission members, and you can tell me if you have seen any other issues. These are in no particular order, okay? All right, so we have issues with the lattice. We see it in this photograph on the right-hand side, on the side of the property, but it's also on either side of that front porch. All right, we have the painted transom. We have the pavers on the steps at the front, and I'm adding the pavers were placed at the threshold of the front entrance. That's a separate thing. We have the side steps that were concrete, and they're covered with the brick. And then there's the issue of the landscaping. Is there any other element here that we have seen or talked about that I have missed?
The side transom steps appear also to have been bricked.
Right, I mentioned the side steps.
The side threshold.
It might have been, I'm not 100% sure about that one, but might be. Shall we just?
We may just
Okay.
need to look into that.
Okay.
It looks to be the same brick.
Right, the mortar looks pretty fresh. All right, thank you.
And what about these, what are these things called? Do you call them balusters?
I said buttress. You talking about the side things on the
Yeah, I'm
step?
talking about the things on the
I called them buttresses, but that's not the word. What's the
There
word?
is a word.
The side things, we'll just call them
These
the
brick
side things.
structures on the sides of the side stairs.
Right.
Have not been approved, and I would.
Right,
think-
that hasn't been approved. Correct, although,
Okay.
what was that? Oh, okay. But
There's
now,
also another set of stairs that I think,
that weren't touched, right?
that
They're the
that
back.
set of stairs has not been approved.
Right. Now, I will tell you what Dr. Malone had said. I've got it somewhere here in the notes. Let me see. Okay. Has to do with the concrete steps on the side that have been bricked over. He felt that since they were already concrete and not original with the house, he didn't have a real issue with what was going on the side of the house.
Would it not otherwise come before us, though, as an alteration?
Yes,
exterior of
it
the
would,
house?
absolutely, absolutely
We would
would.
have an opportunity to consider whether
Correct.
this was an appropriate material. And I think
Correct.
if we go back to that last picture, Jonathan, if you look on the right there, I think I see some more of that orange pavers. Under
Oh,
what looks
the
like to be a
back.
window.
That's a single door that comes out. Yeah, in the back, that's right there.
That's the side, yeah.
But they were comparing these bricks to the side steps that are on the other back, or the back of the house, but the brick's not laid in the same pattern, is it? Even the ones they referenced? So it's even laid in a different pattern than the ones, yes, than that.
I think they've also added some hardscape, some raw concrete there on the side. I don't know whether that would have come before us or not.
Where is that?
If you go back to the picture we were looking at before, that looks like fresh concrete to me, but I could be wrong.
Certainly
The sidewalk area?
Yeah.
Was that sidewalk already there?
I don't think the steps or the sidewalk.
Not the brick.
What about the sidewalk itself, the concrete? It
The
wasn't
concrete, that's the old concrete.
right here?
Oh, in that picture, no, that, I don't know. That's the side of the house.
So that's a sidewalk.
I don't know.
Do we have any other angles of that?
Of that one?
Mm-hmm.
Or that view?
Yeah.
It appears that's the only angle we have.
How far out does that go? Do you know, Jonathan?
Does that go to the new garage?
All the way up? It goes to the garage?
See, in there, doesn't look
It doesn't look
like
as
new
good on that
concrete,
one.
no.
Has it been resurfaced?
It could have been.
I see.
Yeah, so the comment was that that may have been laid when the accessory structure was constructed a few years ago, and that came through HPC.
So it seems to me that we actually need a remediation plan, not a undo it. We need to know how it's going to be undone.
Well, that would be the next step when they come to us, so that won't be tonight.
So
What,
if we're denying this today, we're not giving them permission to go rip it off.
that is correct.
Okay.
So what we do tonight is, I want to make sure that we cover all the items, and then,
The one line item you didn't mention is the restoration of the fountain, which it wasn't originally part of the application, but you just brought it up earlier.
right, and I see that as sort of a moving forward maybe part of the landscape plan. What do you think about that?
Landscape.
Okay. But yeah, that fountain, such a great object. It's got such an interesting history, all this documented stuff on that. All right, so we've got a preliminary list. Now, a number of issues have come up this evening as we're talking about this, and well, let's go through our list again. All right, I want to go step by step with getting a feel for how the commission is moving, all right? And then we can work toward, we have that standing motion to approve, but we can add some language to that. All right, so guys, we've got this lattice, all right, that we see there. Number of comments on that. It's not, we have some existing lattice on the house. We've got some photos of that. So we can see the pattern of that and how it was installed, and this does not seem to meet that. Maybe what we should do is, why don't we talk about the things that don't really meet our standards? Does that sound like a good plan, good way to start? Okay, so we have the lattice, correct? Oh, and I do want to mention, while I think about it now, I want to let the public know that a lot of this just didn't happen randomly. That there was a lot of conversation, a lot of things going on for several months with this property that you might not know about. So the city was involved here and there. We've got some documents of some of these changes as they were happening. It doesn't mean that they were approved changes, but there has been communication ongoing with the property owner. All right, so we have the lattice, the painted transom, all right, very straightforward. All right, let's move on to the variety of pavers that we have here. So,
3 sets of brick steps.
yes, we have 3 sets of brick steps. Now,
Thresholds.
correct. So, let's break those down. Because we do have brick steps at the back of the house that were existing. All right, so there's a precedent there. Let's start with the front, okay? So the front steps were stone, carved limestone, and the design guidelines say you replace like for like. In fact, let me read this. It's really good language. Okay, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. That is under our rehabilitation guidelines and the design guidelines, and deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires the replacement of a distinctive feature, the new one shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and, where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, or pictorial evidence. All right?
But that's not like an either-or shopping list. Like, it comes to
That is
us
right.
to decide whether a architectural feature is degraded enough to merit replacement rather than repair. You know,
Well, and even, and the point of that is, you can't change it, right? So if it's determined, I would say, we've got that front walkway too, right? That sidewalk going up to the house, leading up to the house. I've been by there, that is really deteriorated, for example, so that has to be fixed. According to the rehabilitation guidelines, it has to be like for like, all right? So that was the point of that language there, that, you know, on occasion, things do deteriorate, but you want to preserve the
and I just
appearance.
want to make sure we were all, and everybody here is on the same page.
Correct.
In terms of
Yes.
how that works.
Yes. And, okay. So, at the front of the house, we have brick pavers on that, on the path, on the steps, and the front threshold. Those are covering up a different material, all right? So, is there any discussion on whether those are appropriate or inappropriate? Do not meet the design guidelines, right? Okay,
Very inappropriate.
inappropriate, yep. Just want to confirm with
Kathy, I
everyone.
think my question about the handrails in relation to that was, I think you've said since then they've been determined to be as they were, you know, a year ago?
There were no changes done to those handrails by the current property owner.
Right.
So there's evidence from March of 2023, when the house was sold.
Right.
Pictures taken then, so they were not changed recently.
Okay, my question was, the prior approval, was it based on an accessibility for any type of special needs or handicap accessibility?
So we looked in our records, it doesn't look like we have any approval for those railings that you see there, but they have at least been up since 2020, was the latest picture that we had that shows those. Previous to that, it was an iron
Yes.
rail, so it was a previous property owner who had replaced those.
Do you see evidence of the removal of the iron?
We have old photos of the old
But
iron.
we don't like see a case where they came before us to change it.
No, we did not have
No,
those.
I don't think so. And I do think anecdotally that the previous property owner needed those as a handicapped issue. But I don't remember them coming to us. I remember some other things, but not those.
And I'm sorry, to back up, and I don't mean to be picky, but I want the property owner to understand, we're not saying that a brick paver can never be appropriate hardscape in the historic district. We're saying that covering up those stone stairs and the architectural details, I think there's a consensus that what has happened is inappropriate for this house in this situation.
All right, so we have now the pavers on the side of the house. And your thoughts on this? Covering up concrete. It's a different look, different material.
And the mortaring is not the same as the mortaring on the house.
Were you talking about the pad in front? Just all the way down? Oh, there,
Talking about the size now.
on the side.
Yeah, you know, I like to think of these as if this had come before us and this was a nice plan that had been drawn up, would we have approved it on this house? And I think not on this house. And that includes the things on the side as well.
Okay, so let's see now. We've covered the lattice. Let's talk about landscaping.
Door thresholds that are brick.
I've sort of wrapped it, like thought that's what we're doing here, but
Oh,
all
I
that,
see.
the side steps with side thresholds, we'll consider those as a single unit? Is that okay?
Okay,
That
sure,
work?
sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Landscaping. We have no plan on the landscaping, all right? And then finally, in the application, the applicant is asking about that, I'm going to call it the sidewalk that leads up to the front of the house. It's deteriorated. All right, there we go. You can really see it here. It's a mess. And that's there. They would like to continue with the brick paver. So I'm pulling that out separately because that work hasn't been done yet. Our design guidelines are very clear, like for like, to replicate what is there as best we can. All right.
I mean,
All right.
do we have a proposal? So they're wanting to bring the same pavers all the way down the sidewalk?
That's what the application states. Yep. So we have what we have. Now, what we have here, we've talked about this, and we've had a lot of feedback from the community. We return back to what our purpose is and to the design guidelines which govern all the decisions that we make. And when we talk about historic structures, the importance of historic structures, we have a very important building in front of us. We've had changes that were done that do not, in my opinion, meet our guidelines.
I just feel like we're putting the cart before the horse on the sidewalk. You know, I don't feel like I can consider potentially some sort of a paver on this sidewalk without understanding what's happening with the stairs, what's happening with the porch. And so, you know, I'm almost inclined, if we wanted to continue that one aspect, I don't know whether we can do that.
Well,
The sidewalk needs to be addressed some way, but it needs to be with a plan for the whole house.
So here is how I'm thinking about this, right? As I am the rest of the application. We have a concrete type sidewalk here. They want to put brick on it. My reading of the design guidelines is it's not replacing like for like. So in my opinion, that fits in with all of the other things that were presented to us this evening. And then they do come back to us. If their application is denied, they do come back with a full plan
For each of these topics.
for all of these topics. That's correct.
But it's not for us to decide everything that's wrong, right? They got to just come back with a plan.
That is right.
We
But-
can deny this application. And then
Correct.
they have to come back. And if
Correct.
we miss something, they still got to fix it, right?
I would say yes. I mean, they do.
I mean, it has to be on the
They
plan,
do,
right?
yes. Oh, sure, absolutely, yes. I just want to make sure that tonight, there were a lot of things that were not in that application, and they're important, and I don't want them to slip by. So if we know about them and we've seen them and we've got it documented, then that should come out this evening.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to recognize that Nathan, you know, came here with his hat in his hand and said, I'm going to prepare a plan. So I think he'll grab it, right? This is not an all-inclusive list. He's going to.
It's as best as we can tell, looking at the
Yeah, with the
exterior of the
information we
property
got.
as is. And I think it's fairly complete with the changes that have been done on the exterior.
Yeah, I just don't want to get in, Madam Chairwoman, I just don't want to get painted into the corner of saying that we've let somebody put brick pavers on a sidewalk somewhere in the historic district, and the only reason we're citing is you have to go back for like. I mean, I don't think that I can consider this in isolation. I think it's a complex case. And so, you know, I just think that in terms of what happens here, this needs to come back with a comprehensive plan that we can consider in terms of the hardscape and everything else.
Correct. That's right. That's right. And you know, what happens in one property doesn't necessarily translate over to another property, right? Because each of these are very unique, and this is an incredibly unique property as well. So, yeah, I think we're all on the same page with that. So, as I'm listening to the comments and we've talked a lot about this, and I think Mr. Jardot has heard a lot to convey back to the owner of the property. We do have that standing motion to approve. In voting against it means that we're denying the application. All right? Is there any other comment? Any other language that needs to be added to anything? Let me ask our counselors here. We don't have to go through the list of the lattice. Do we go through the list of the lattice and the transom and the, or is that part of when we suggest a course of action?
You know, the only thing that's in the application for the commission tonight, as I understand it, and Jonathan and Emily can correct me if I'm wrong, but is just the brickwork that's been done on the steps, the front area, and the various locations around the house. In terms of dealing with that application, there is no need for the commission to, that I can see, there's no requirement for the commission to speak to other issues. You know, there's a stop work order that is in place. It will remain in place if the application, before you tonight, if that application is denied. And as you pointed out a few minutes ago, it will be incumbent upon the owner of the property and, you know, and their consultant team to work with the city staff in order to figure out what their plan is for addressing all of the issues that there are with the property.
So all of these other things that we have mentioned, the lattice, the painted transom, we don't need to mention that to the owner in anything we say tonight?
I believe that Jonathan and Emily are already working with the owner
Okay.
about those issues.
Okay,
And
that,
that-
well, that's
and that
simple.
they know that those are
All right.
issues that have to be addressed.
As long as we've got that list that we've talked about, that we've heard from the community as well. Okay, thank you. Is that cool with everybody? All right. So we have a standing motion to approve HPC 0824, Mark Nix, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the primary structure located at 325 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4, and we shall vote, beginning on my right, please.
No.
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 All right, so Mr. Jardot, thank you for your patience this evening as we talk through a lot of elements here. City staff will work with you and with the owner in the plan in going forward with this and what the next steps are with this application. If there are any questions that come up, please speak to city staff about it. And thank you again for representing the owner. Let me ask the counselors, do we have to cite reasons no why we voted it down?
In the rules, yes, and if you would like to go through and state, or if any individual commissioners would like to go through and state the reasons for the no votes on that, my view is that there was a very thorough discussion prior to in which the issues with not matching the style, not conforming
Right.
to the design
So
guidelines were
it's not
stated.
necessary for us to go through it.
That if anybody has anything else that they would like to add, as you certainly can. Like I said, I think there was a very in-depth and healthy discussion of the reasons and the issues for the denial.
I think just simply put, it doesn't meet the design guidelines, right, in so many areas. Was there a comment over here? No?
Yes, that clearly we had a consensus in the discussion is the other thing.
And I mean, there were specific points made about not matching the mortar patterns or the style, the brick patterns and the style of the mortar. Yes.
I heard a larger question from Trish, Ms. Stone, about, you know, how do you help the owner not ever get in the position that they found themselves in? And so when you apply for a work order, do you not get a flag or something?
If you were to apply for a building permit?
Yes. Or
Right,
or
and
a renovation permit or something?
That's correct. And if you're applying for a building permit in the historic district, it comes through our office. We review every minor detail of the work being proposed. So if this were to have come to us first, it never would have got to a point without going to you all.
So in this kind of renovation type work that's being done like for like even, do they have to go for a permit?
So for the building department, they would still require a permit.
Right.
And so that would be something after our office approves expedited review, they go to the building office, pull the permit, and then they can begin work.
That was a good question.
So was something missed? So where was it missed? Where did the link miss? You know what I mean?
Right,
Where was
so-
the broken element?
Right,
That's
initially-
true. That's the question I heard from Trish, what can y'all do to help
Right.
everybody?
Well, if contractors or property owners applied for the permit on the front end
Front end.
before we get a call that says someone's doing work, that's where the disconnect came in, is we received a call on the back end after work had already begun.
Okay.
No.
So how would, let's say you're in a neighborhood and you see some work going on down the street and it looks all right, but you're not sure, how would you call to verify that they had pulled up a building permit?
Absolutely, yeah, people call us all the time. They could call our office, we could check to see if they've got an expedited review. After that, we can check and see if they got a building permit.
Of course, you're not going to tell the other owner that somebody called and asked them whether they got a building permit.
And that's how we receive a lot of the complaints. If someone calls, then from there, we can begin the process of taking them through the appropriate approval process.
But Nathan was way back, you didn't come into this until just recently, so this was way before your act. Yeah,
My process is to go before the HPC and do the permitting first, because I know the process.
right.
We can't have these conversations across the room. It's not being recorded.
I see, gotcha. There we go.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We're kind of closed that case, and this is for discussion later, but if we were to continue it, we would need Mr. Giordano to come up to the podium so that it is captured by the system. So, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Very
Yeah.
much.
It was a good conversation. We'll go ahead and move on to HPC 924. Mark Passin petitions for a certificate of appropriateness. This is for the removal of the chimney on the detached garage, for alterations to the roof, and a material change to the windows on the primary structure. This is at 1613 Alaka Place, Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So we have the location of the property, an aerial view. And then we'll go ahead and move into the subject property and the surrounding properties. This is the adjacent northern property, eastern and western property. So their proposal is to replace all the existing wood lap siding. The current detached garage has a hardy board siding, so they would like to use that material on the primary structure. They would also like to replace all existing single glazed window sashes with aluminum clad wood sashes, remove an existing parapet wall that's on the primary structure, and to remove an existing chimney on the garage. So we'll just go around. We've got multiple pictures of the primary structure and the detached garage. All the windows that you see with a number, those are the windows being requested to be replaced. As you can see on the picture on the right side of your screen, there are a number of windows that they are requesting to remain. They were replaced some time ago, so they do not need replacement at this time. We'll move on to the back portion of the house, and you can see all the windows on the second story they're requesting to replace, and everything on the first story they're requesting to keep. And then we also have the existing to remain on the picture on the right side of your screen. This is the parapet wall, and there are two walls, one on each side of the primary structure. They are requesting to remove these walls. They do plan to replace the roof, same type of roof that they would like to go back with. And in the process of doing that, they want to take these walls down to reduce the number of leaks, reduce the number of holes that are currently on the roof. And here we have just a closer-up image of those two walls. Here we have the detached garage with that chimney, and this is at the rear property line, so you really can't see it unless you go back behind the garage itself. This is a closer-up image of that chimney. You can see it kind of growing away or leaning away from the detached garage. Materials: aluminum clad wood windows, hardy plank siding. Everything else is being requested to be removed. So here we have the material spec sheet for the windows as well. And then these are those applicable design guidelines. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
Any questions for city staff?
I have one. Jonathan, the parapet wall over the low slope roof, that section of the house, do we know whether that section of the house is original?
That's what we were looking at in the historic survey. It doesn't mention the wall specifically. It does look like the house itself has been added onto, but it's unclear when those walls were erected or if they were original to the house.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come on up. And if you can state your name and address, please, for the record.
Mark Picene, 16390 Beams Road, Northport, Alabama.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about the application?
Do y'all have any questions for me?
Any questions about the parapet wall?
Do you happen to know if the parapet wall is original to the structure?
I do not. I know they're covered with vinyl siding right now. And the parapet wall, if you look on the one over where Robert Reynolds lives, it doesn't have the column detail at the end that the other one does. They don't match. They're causing a lot of problems with the house. It's hard to keep these things from leaking.
Can you tell us about the condition of the clapboard siding on the front of the house?
I'm sorry, I can't
Can you
hear
tell us about the condition of the wood siding on the front of the house?
Any issues with it? Some of them are deteriorated. All the paint's peeling on them. It's all lead paint. And the owners would just like to replace it. Put new hardy siding on there.
Did you bring any pictures of any deterioration of the wood itself, or can you tell us about any of that wood deteriorating?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm asking if you have any pictures, or you can tell us about any of the wood siding on the front of the house that is deteriorating.
I still don't understand the question.
Yeah, is there any that's actually rotting out on the front of the house?
Yeah, some of it's rotten.
Is it just the front of the house that's getting replaced? The siding is being replaced, or is it?
All the way around the house.
Well, anywhere there's siding, it's being updated
Yes.
to hardy plank.
Just like someone did on the garage at and it doesn't look like it was very long ago it was done. I assume all it came through and was approved by HPC when they did that. They also apparently replaced several windows and a few doors at that time on the main house.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. I don't think, we have no more questions for
Okay.
you at this moment.
All
So
right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to this application? I'll close the floor to public comment then and open the floor to discussion by commission members.
Jonathan and Emily, do we have record of the other existing upgrades in any of our notes where they came before us, for the other windows and the other siding?
We can look at that and check and see.
This is a really interesting case for me. I don't think we've ever had exactly this case with replacing wood siding. We let people go from wood to hardy on a pretty regular basis, but I don't know that we've had the case where the wood siding was on the most important part of the house and is a major feature of that important part of the house, and there's been no substantial showing that there's a real reason to replace the wood siding. Personally, on the sides, on the back, I understand. It's easier to maintain, but it doesn't look exactly the same. And I've got this wood siding on my house. You got to paint it every 10 years, you know? The wood that they used is incredibly tight grain, and it probably stands up as good as a lot of modern building materials. So on this particular house, I have reservations about replacing the wood siding on the front of the house without, I think of it like a tree case. You know, we don't require a big showing to take down a tree. You got to show that there's some reason to take down the tree. And that's how I feel about the siding on the front of the house, on a house like this where it's such a feature.
Any other comments on that?
Can you clarify for the record, so the site, they're asking for siding on the whole perimeter, everything?
I'll read you the language from the packet here. I can make it out. Replace all existing wood lap siding and trim with cement fiber lap siding and trim to match existing siding on detached garage.
I agree with Joseph, because it is such a prominent feature. I'm just, have we been through where we approved hardy board for existing wood? I know we've done it for like vinyl siding and things like that.
We have done it for existing wood. We haven't done an entire structure, I don't think.
Okay.
But we have done front facades, we've done parts, we've done some things on it.
It's almost always accompanied by like a bunch of rot, you know, like it's not practical. But I don't know, I can't remember where there just seemed to be no reason to do it other than I prefer hardy.
Any other comments on that? The window change is appropriate. Anybody want to talk about the chimney? On the garage, that is, you know, it's pulling itself away from the garage on the very back property line. Any comments on that? Do we need more discussion about the hardy siding? I mean, it's you know, not as simple as it appears, because, you know, we're talking about replacing the wood here. You know, what's in the best interest of the structure? We do in the back have some issues. You know, the thing is, we've approved it before. Some replacing rotted wood, some not. The overall appearance will be consistent that way. It will match in profile and size.
But have we approved it for the entire structure when there were rather marked deteriorations? And that seems to be the, I don't think so either.
I kind of have to disagree here, because I don't know that if I had a photo of the existing structure with original wood siding and hardy side by side from the public right of way, that I could.
There's a picture in there that'll show you that very thing. If you look at the picture showing the chimney on the back of the garage, that side hadn't been replaced.
Well, what I was saying is, I don't know that I could draw a distinction between hardy board and wood visually. Right. See, I mean, and I'm assuming from this photo that the left side there is the replaced hardy board, and that has, you know, a visual wood-like texture to me. I don't know that.
Well,
right.
Since that's been done on the garage, I'd like to keep that on the house as well.
Right.
As far as the texture of the side, new side.
This is a new.
So I don't personally feel like it detracts from, you know, and I from the structure, and I feel like if you're, maybe you can speak to this, Mark, but that, you know, maybe the conjunction of having a slight wood rot and then needing to do larger work like window replacement kind of precipitated wanting to do the entire house as in the, you know, in the hardy siding.
I can't speak as to why the owners came to us to do this. I know they want, and let me say this about the windows, we're not replacing the entire window units, we're just doing sash replacement.
Poisonous ashes, right. Well, and I would say I would prefer, and we've got to keep our discussion at the podium, guys. Let's just remind everybody about that. But I would say that I would prefer that when hardy board or some kind of change in a siding material is done, that it's not done in a haphazard way, that we do just the back or we do just the side, or, I mean, I think Mr. Edwards makes an interesting point here. And going back to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, the idea is if a feature needs to be repaired or replaced, it's important that it looks like it does in the original, and this will do that.
This shows that the garage that are questionable as far as approval goes, or even a different size when you look right and left. See, it's not even the length. Because the one
Right.
on the left is hardy, but the one on the right
Right,
is
right.
it's
So,
original.
yes.
So it's longer, wider. And is the depth of the board the same, It'll be different too.
Well, so, Mr. Posehn, can you come up for a quick sec? The hardy plank that you're proposing, does it match the profile of what is there now in wood?
On the original house?
Yes, the original wood.
No. It is not that thick.
Is it that deep?
We can match the exposure, yes.
Okay, I mean, as long as it's, because when you say deep, what I'm looking at in this role
Right.
is if I'm looking at the structure, that the boards look the same this way and depth-wise this way. Will they look the same? Are they the same height this way and the same thickness?
Height-wise, yes. Thickness-wise, no.
Are they thinner? Are they thicker? What's that side profile going to look like?
Well, the side profile will look like the old side profile, but obviously the hardy siding is 3/8 of an inch thick, and the existing wood siding is 3/4 to 1 inch thick.
And in some way, like, what
So
do you
that's
think?
old siding on the
Right.
back of the house, on the back of the garage.
There we go.
That's the front and the side of the garage. And I
That's
just
the new
assumed all
side.
this was
Right.
approved when
Right.
it was done. We didn't do that.
Well, and the discussion may have been different because it was a garage. I don't think there's any question that hardy siding looks similar to wood siding. The question is whether there is enough value in the original look and material to preserve it. I don't really think we're dying on a hill here. All I'm talking about is the facade.
Well, the application, so here's how we can proceed. The application as presented to us is the entirety with the siding, with the windows, with the brick chimney. And so let me just check with city staff that if, say, a commission member did not feel that changing all the siding was appropriate, leaving the front as is, say, they would vote no to the application. Is that correct?
On the standing motion yes, is the answer to your question. If someone was not in favor of all elements of the application, then on the standing motion to approve, that person would need to vote no on.
Okay.
Now, the other option that you do have would be if someone wants to make a motion to, you know, approve with conditions or approve part of the application. I can't really tell from the discussion which way it's headed, because then you have to start getting into discussions of, okay, are you gonna allow the hardy siding on some, you know, some faces of the building but not others? How's that gonna work? Is there gonna be just no hardy siding at all? Those are issues that the commission would have to tease out, but it would also be in order to consider a special motion or a specific motion for the approval of the application.
Could we see a picture of the house from the front again?
Sure. But I would, I have an issue with doing this haphazardly and doing some of it and not all of it, because there will be subtle changes. However, it does preserve the overall feel, look of this house. We're talking, you know, sort of millimeters here in thickness, but the profile, as you're looking at this house, it will look the same. And I have an issue with leaving the front in one way and doing everything else on this large house with something else.
Well, that's why I wanted to see that, because from the street on this side, the west side, it's quite visible to the street.
It's a vacant lot.
Yeah. So the front and the side would be visible, and if there were differences, it would be awkward, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thank you. I think we're good for now. We might bring you back as the discussion continues. Is there anything else anybody would like to say? All righty. We have a standing motion to approve. HPC.
I'd like to make a special motion per council to approve it with the condition that the siding on the front and the western exposures stay, except as may be reasonably necessary to repair it.
I don't agree with that. So what do we do? If somebody wants to make a motion, we need a second.
There's been a motion that's made.
Okay.
If there's a second, then the
Is there a
commission can
second
move
on
to
this
entertain.
motion?
Second.
All right. And then voting on the motion to add the stipulation of the front and the one side stay as wood. We got to vote on the motion.
Yes.
No.
We're voting on the motion about the siding now, that Joseph,
Right.
Proposes.
Leaving wood on two
Yeah.
sides of the house.
all right, yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
All right, so,
There was a count that I have. Mr. Edwards, how did you vote?
I voted no.
You voted no. So by my count, I have, I think, 4 no votes and 3 yes votes. So that motion has failed. I believe.
right.
So then it would, the standing motion to approve would still be before the commission.
Okay. Ready to go? Standing motion to approve HPC 0924, Mark Passain petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the removal of a chimney on the detached garage and for alterations to the roof and material change to the windows. Now, the material change to the siding is not mentioned in this,
Summary.
in the summary here. It says material change to the windows on the primary structure, but there is no material change to the siding. What do we do?
One second. Jonathan, you have the application. Can you put that up? So this is the actual application that's filed. This is what the commission is voting to approve or disapprove.
Do you want me to read that?
you can read it if you would like to. I mean, it is in the documentary record that this is, that the, which would include the replacement of all existing wood lap siding and trim with cement fiber lap siding. So,
Typically, I read what we have here, HPC 0924.
you certainly can.
I'm going to insert what we have here, folks. Mark Hussein petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the removal of a chimney on the detached garage and for alterations to the roof and material change to the windows on the primary structure and material change to the siding, thank you for the word, on the primary structure located at 1613 Alica Place in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. Good. We will vote, beginning on my left, please. Mr. McCool?
No.
No?
Yes?
Yes.
No?
No.
So the application has,
Has failed.
pardon me?
Has failed.
Has failed, right, has not been approved this evening, Mr. Hussein.
And I would suggest at this point, because there are three different issues or three different requests with this application. If the commissioners, or any of the commissioners who voted against the application would like to state their reasons for that, this would be the time to do it.
All right, thank you. Let's begin down at my left, please.
My objection would be with the replacing of all the wood. I just don't think it's warranted from what was presented.
I'd like to say the same thing, and I also was just confused by the way it was put before us, the wording in the petition itself. And even when it says trim, you clarified that it only meant sash, it didn't mean window trim itself. So I just had too much confusion to vote yes.
There seems to be a significant difference between the kinds of siding, the hardy versus the historic wood siding. And there's not visible need for replacement of the wooden part. Those are my reasons.
Yeah, I would adopt what I said earlier. It's a combination of a slight material change with the context of this particular house and what appears to be a lack of need for the wholesale removal and replacement of the original architectural wood siding.
I see too much of a difference in the thickness of the siding materials for the new versus old, as well as the exposure. And I just don't see the need for it at this time. I don't have concern with the other pieces, but since it was presented as one, I couldn't go forward with it.
I'm not mad. I mean, it's not my house.
Right, right. Well, the city...
But we have, and I couldn't tell you what year, 3 or 4 years ago, we did this same exact thing on Sherwood Drive. I can't remember the house number. You go in, you go left, you go all the way, it's next to the last house on the street on the right. Stripped every bit of the wood siding off the house and replaced it with hardy siding. So I just assumed that this would go through as well. Like that was a precedent. There wasn't any problem at the time with that, y'all.
Right. I would suggest...
But is this all y'all are concerned about, is the siding or the windows and the roof, the parapet walls?
It appears from what the commission members said, the issue was with the siding. They were fine with everything else.
Everything, okay.
So with the way that the commission just voted, all of it was denied.
Correct.
So every item that was on this request tonight, the windows, parapet walls, all of that was just denied.
Can the petitioner orally amend to ask us to go ahead and approve the remaining aspects that were presented so that they can get to work?
I think that's going to be up to the applicant and what they want to do next.
Yeah, can y'all say yes to everything and no to the siding?
I so move.
Second.
Voting beginning on my left, please.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, hang on. Motion to approve. HPC 0924, Mark Hussein petitions for a certificate of appropriateness. This makes it really easy because I just read what's written here. For the removal of a chimney on the detached garage and for alterations to the roof and material change to the windows on the primary structure located at 1613 Alica Place in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We got it, right?
Yep.
All right, voting on my right, please.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 All right, so after a little journey here on this application, you have been approved to do the changes you applied for, with the exception of the siding that appears in the application but not actually on the agenda here. City staff will work with you. Should anything change?
Well,
Yes?
let me ask one more.
Okay.
Can you pull the picture back up of the back of the garage and the chimney? Can we at least do the back of the garage after we take this chimney down? Put hardy board on the back of the garage.
The siding there to
Yes,
replace
ma'am.
the old wood.
To at least have the whole garage.
You can, but not tonight. You'll have to come back to us, because we can't be doing everything on the fly. We can amend in a way what was asked for, but we can't now start doing things after the fact. So it seems like an easy thing, easy approval, in my opinion. But we can't just keep doing it tonight like
Could they
this.
do that in-house?
Pardon me?
Could they do that in-house, or we have to come back here?
You have to come back.
You would have to go, if it's wood underneath the chimney and you're wanting to replace it with the hardy that matches the rest of the accessory structure, then unfortunately, because it's a change in siding material, it'd have to come back.
Mr. Hobbs, Madam Chairwoman, you don't think we could have one more vote to approve replacing the wood on the back of the garage, as Mr. Posey, I think, needs to take that chimney down and put something back up?
The issue I have with this is that we're now adding to the application, and this is a procedural.
At some point, we've had 3 votes on the application
this-
tonight, and I do think it's important to preserve some legitimacy about the work that the commission's doing up here.
We'll see you again.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, HPC 1024, Chad and Julie Tyndall petition for a certificate of appropriateness for the enclosure of an existing porch on the primary structure and for an addition on the existing detached garage. This is at 5 Hillcrest in the Hillcrest Historic District, Council District 2. So here we have the aerial view and location of the property, as well as a view of the property from the street. And then here we have the adjacent western property. So moving into the proposal, it's for an enclosure of an existing screened-in porch and also an expand an existing detached garage. So looking again at the primary structure, view from the front, I will note nothing is changing from the public right-of-way. And here we have the existing and proposed site plan. So the new addition, or the new enclosure, is located here on the house, and then a slight addition to the detached garage located there. And then we have some drawings just showing that. So on the house is an existing screened-in porch going back with matching materials to the remainder of the primary structure, and then also using like materials for this detached garage portion that you see here. All materials, yep. Just that portion, essentially extending the roof and also screening in there's an existing patio underneath that proposed screened-in porch, so essentially screening in a porch, extending the roof, keeping the matching materials the same. So all the materials will match those that are already existing on the primary structure and the garage. And for the wood, or for the windows itself, they are proposing one window where that new enclosure will be on the primary structure, and it'll be made of wood, which match those that currently exist on the primary structure. And here we have the applicable design guidelines. We did receive 5 comments in support of this application, and we do have the petitioner here in person.
Let me just add quickly, have the record show that Ms. Young has left the hearing? Right, but she's not here, right? Any questions for staff? Right, thank you. Let me invite the applicant to come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, ma'am. Chad Tyndall, 5 Hillcrest.
Is there anything more you can tell us about your project?
I think the photos, which were part of the application, may explain it. It's a relatively small and minor modification. There's an existing screen porch on the house, which I think was added after the 2011 tornado. And it's under the current roof line, and it's on a concrete foundation, which I think would be an addition, which is the other reason I think it was post-tornado. So that in the top picture there, the proposal is to wall that in. There's one existing window to the house, which would become a door. And our contractor thinks we can move that window and reuse it. All of the windows, I think, are also post-2011 tornado. They're all Pella and appear new. And then match that with 3 other windows. So there would be 2 on the south-facing side that you can see there, and then 1 on each side of that bedroom. No door to it, no exterior door to it. And then once we lose that screen porch on the house, if you'll scroll up, on the back of the garage, there was bamboo that covered like acres of that neighborhood that has been cut down. I have dug a lot of bamboo out of there. And directly behind the garage, there was some tornado debris, including broken glass and an old fire pit. And we brought that to the staff a couple of years ago when we moved in and covered it with that patio. That patio is too hot to sit on 250 days of the year because it has no shade from the bamboo being removed, and it does face south. So that roof line, the proposal is that would come out 12 feet and then screen below it and basically finish out the triangle at the top in similar fashion. So the entire house and garage are all that asbestos siding. I don't know if it's really asbestos anymore, but it's those rectangular blocks. So those can still be purchased, and you flip them one way or the other for curlicue at the bottom, which is the house, or straight, which is the garage. And I have no idea why one is different than the other. And the second project does have to go to the zoning board, which I'm on their agenda later this month because of the size of the garage at that point.
Any questions for the applicant? And just quickly, record can show that Ms. Young has returned to the hearing. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Tyndall. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? I'll close the floor to public comment because we had, that's 4 comments in support of this application. Any discussion by commission members? Very straightforward application.
It's a very easy to understand and well put together application.
It is.
Thank you.
All right, we have a standing motion to approve HPC 10-24, Chad and Julie Tyndall, petition for a certificate of appropriateness for the enclosure of an existing porch on the primary structure and for an addition on an existing detached garage on the property located at 5 Hillcrest in the Hillcrest Historic District, Council District 2. Voting. Let's begin on my left again.
Yes.
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 Mr. Tyndall, your application has passed. Should anything change, see city staff before you move forward. Good luck with your project. There will be a final inspection. And thank you for coming this evening.
We'll move on to HPC 1124. Amy Scott petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for a material change to all windows or to all the windows on the primary structure located at 804 16th Avenue. This is in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. Here we have an aerial view of the property as well as a location. And here we have a view of the primary structure from the street. This should look familiar to you. Back 2013 or 2023, you denied a request for them to keep the vinyl windows that they have replaced. So when I say all windows, I mean all windows that they replaced that were vinyl. So their new proposal is to replace the existing vinyl windows with aluminum clad wood windows. So Ms. Scott has worked with us to put this proposal together. And here we kind of have an image that shows those windows that were already replaced, they were denied, and now they are coming back before you with a plan to remedy those vinyl windows. So just have a couple of pictures that show some of those windows that have been replaced. Not all windows on the property have been replaced. As you can see there, there's still some of the original wood windows, so those would remain. They would just be replacing those vinyl windows.
And my understanding is they are going to maintain the original grid patterns.
That's correct, yep, in her application. So as you see here, it's a mixture of 4/1 and 6/1. They intend to replace that with that matching pattern. And then here we have the material spec sheet for the windows and the applicable design guidelines. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and Ms. Scott could not make it to the meeting tonight.
Okay. So we'll proceed. Any questions for city staff? Any questions that we would have for you? But we have none. So y'all are good. All right. Anybody here to speak in support of or opposition to? Thank you. I will close the floor to public comment. Very straightforward application. We remember seeing this before with the vinyl windows. The property owner is now coming to us with appropriate materials, keep maintaining the same size, the same glazing patterns. It's a very nice solution to the issue. No discussion. All right, standing motion to approve HPC 1124. Amy Scott petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for a material change to windows on the primary structure located at 804 16th Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We shall vote beginning on my right, please.
Yes.
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 So staff, please convey to Ms. Scott that her application has been approved this evening, and that should anything change, to talk to you guys, there'll be a final inspection, and we really appreciate her work on this home. Thank you.
All right, moving on to our last case, HPC 1224. Darren McAuslin petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for material change to the roof on the primary structure at 1204 Queen City Avenue. This is in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have an aerial view of the property as well as its location, then a view of that property from Queen City Avenue. Here we have the adjacent northern and southern properties as well. So they propose to replace an existing asphalt shingle roof with a metal roof. We actually have a piece of the roof that they would like to go back with. So again, here we have the primary structure, materials, metal, and those material spec sheet. I will pass this up to the commission so that you can see and feel the roof material. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have the representative here in person.
All right. Can we see the front facade again? I love it when we have things for show and tell. So all the roofed surfaces, I'm assuming.
That's correct, yeah. And there's an accessory structure on the property as well, and I believe they intend to replace it with a metal roof as well.
It appears we have no questions for city staff. Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Let me invite the applicant's representative to come on up, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Darren McCausland. I live at 3020 Nimitz Circle Northeast, Tuscaloosa.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to tell us about this project?
That roof has lived its useful life, so it is in dire need of repair, or replacement, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Seems pretty straightforward. We've approved standing seam metal roofs before. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? Seeing none, I will close the floor to public comment and open the floor up to discussion by commission members. Straightforward material we've approved before.
I think it's worth noting that there doesn't appear to be anything in the historical design of this house that is particularly dependent on or special about the material of the roof.
But it could have been a material, it could have been that choice back in the day as well. So a number of appropriate materials for that style of bungalow. So thank you. All right then, standing motion to approve HPC 1224, Darren McCausland petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for a material change to the roof on the primary structure at 1204 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We shall vote, beginning on my left, please, Mr. McCool.
Yes.
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 Your application has been approved this evening. Thank you for your patience in sitting through everything this evening. Should anything change, please see city staff before you proceed. There will be a final inspection. Best of luck with your project. Thank you.
All right, the only other thing we have for you is staff approved 6 expedited approvals since the previous HPC meeting.
All right, and I think we need to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. Have a good evening, everyone. This hearing is adjourned.